In our hyper-connected, information-saturated world, the ability to capture attention, build trust, and foster genuine cooperation is not just a soft skill, it's a fundamental currency of social and professional success. We are constantly, whether consciously or not, engaged in a dance of influence, shaping and being shaped by the perceptions and behaviors of those around us. While this might sound manipulative, the true art of positive influence is far from it. It is rooted in a sophisticated understanding of human psychology, empathy, and a genuine desire to create mutually beneficial outcomes. This guide moves beyond superficial tricks to explore profound psychological principles that govern human interaction. These are not dark arts reserved for charismatic leaders or savvy salespeople. They are accessible tools for anyone seeking to improve their communication, strengthen their relationships, and navigate social landscapes with greater grace and effectiveness. From the subtle power of using someone's name to the strategic building of anticipation, each principle reveals a layer of the complex tapestry of human motivation and connection. By exploring, understanding, and ethically applying these 18 strategies, you can transform your interactions from transactional exchanges into meaningful engagements. You will learn to communicate in a way that resonates deeply, build trust that endures, and inspire action that is willing and enthusiastic. This journey is not about controlling others, but about mastering the art of connection, leading to richer, more collaborative, and more fulfilling personal and professional relationships. 1. The profound power of the name. At its core, the power of using a person's name taps into one of our most fundamental human desires, the need to be recognized as a unique and significant individual. A name is not merely a label. It is the auditory symbol of our identity, our history, and our very essence. From childhood, we are conditioned to respond to our names. It is the sound that cuts through the noise of a crowded room, the word that signifies we are being addressed, seen, and acknowledged. The psychological underpinnings. The effectiveness of this principle is rooted in what psychologists call the cocktail party effect. Our brains are finely tuned to filter out irrelevant background chatter, but the sound of our own name instantly captures our attention. When you use someone's name, you are essentially triggering this innate neurological switch, shifting their brain from a passive to an active listening state. Furthermore, hearing one's name stimulates the medial prefrontal cortex, a brain region associated with self-perception and social cognition, effectively making the person more receptive to the message that follows. Beyond attention, building rapport and trust. Using a name does more than just capture attention. It builds an immediate bridge of rapport. It signals that you see the person as more than just a function or a face in the crowd. In professional settings, addressing a colleague by name fosters a sense of collegiality and respect. In customer service, it transforms an anonymous interaction into a personalized experience, increasing customer satisfaction and loyalty. It implicitly says, "I value you enough to remember who you are." Practical application and nuance. Context is king. The use of a name should feel natural, not forced. The beginning and end of an interaction are typically safe and effective moments. Using it when asking a thoughtful question or offering a sincere compliment can deepen the impact. The formality spectrum. Be mindful of cultural and contextual norms regarding formality. Using a first name may be appropriate in one setting, while a title and surname, such as Dr. Smith, are required in another. When in doubt, err on the side of formality and allow the other person to invite you to use their first name. The danger of overuse. Repetitively using a person's name in a single conversation can come across as unsincere, salesy, or even condescending. It shifts from being a gesture of recognition to a transparent technique, which can breed distrust. The goal is subtle emphasis, not constant repetition. Pronunciation matters. Making an effort to pronounce a name correctly is a profound form of respect. If you are unsure, it is always better to ask politely, "Could you please remind me how to pronounce your name?" than to repeatedly mispronounce it. In essence, the power of the name is a testament to the human need for individual significance. When used authentically and appropriately, it is one of the simplest yet most powerful tools for affirming another person's dignity and building a foundation for positive interaction. 2. The disarming authenticity of a genuine smile. A smile is a universal language, but not all smiles are created equal. The conscious, social smile we use as a polite formality involves only the zygomatic major muscles around the mouth. The genuine, authentic smile, known as the Duchenne smile, after the French neurologist who identified it, engages both the zygomatic major and the orbicularis oculi muscles around the eyes, creating the characteristic crow's feet. This distinction is crucial because our brains are hardwired to detect the difference, often on a subconscious level. The science of smiling. The act of smiling triggers a powerful neurochemical feedback loop. When we smile, even voluntarily, it can stimulate the release of endorphins, natural painkillers and mood elevators, dopamine, associated with reward and pleasure, and serotonin, which modulates mood. This means that smiling can genuinely make you feel happier. Moreover, this effect is contagious due to the presence of mirror neurons in our brains. When we see someone smile authentically, our mirror neurons fire in a way that mimics the experience, prompting us to smile in return and potentially experience a similar uplift in mood. This creates a virtuous cycle of positivity. Building bridges and disarming defenses. A genuine smile is a signal of non-threatening intent and approachability. In potentially tense situations, such as a disagreement or a first meeting, a sincere smile can serve as a social lubricant, lowering the defenses of all parties involved. It communicates, "I am friendly, I am open, and I mean you no harm." This can de-escalate conflict and create a psychological space where constructive dialogue is possible. In a leadership context, a leader's genuine smile can make them more relatable and inspire trust and loyalty within their team. Strategic application and pitfalls. Timing and sincerity. The key is authenticity. A smile that is mistimed or appears plastered on can be perceived as creepy, insincere, or even manipulative. Smile when it feels natural, when greeting someone, when expressing gratitude, or when sharing a moment of agreement. Cultural considerations. While smiling is generally positive, its interpretation can vary across cultures. In some cultures, constant smiling may be seen as a sign of frivolity or a lack of seriousness. It is important to be aware of these nuances in cross-cultural interactions. Beyond the mouth. Remember that a real smile is a full-face event. Practice smiling with your eyes. A simple trick is to think of something that genuinely brings you joy before an interaction to spark a more authentic expression. The genuine smile is far more than a social nicety. It is a biological tool for connection and a psychological signal of warmth and integrity. By cultivating the habit of offering authentic smiles, you not only improve your own emotional state, but also actively contribute to a more positive and cooperative environment around you.
3. Mirroring, the subtle dance of connection. Mirroring is the unconscious or conscious imitation of another person's gestures, posture, speech patterns, and even attitudes. It is a behavior observed in infants and is fundamental to how we learn to connect and empathize with others. When used consciously and ethically, it becomes a powerful tool for building rapport and fostering a sense of familiarity and trust. Why it works. The principle of similarity. At a deep psychological level, we are drawn to what is familiar. We trust people who seem similar to us because they affirm our own worldview and behaviors. Mirroring leverages this principle by subtly signaling, "I am like you." We are part of the same tribe. This is not about mockery, but about creating a harmonious and synchronized interaction. Studies have shown that when people are in sync, their brain waves can even show patterns of alignment, a state known as neural coupling. The mechanics of effective mirroring. Subtlety is paramount. The goal is to create a feeling of comfort, not to be caught. Obvious, immediate copying of every gesture will be perceived as mimicry and will break trust instantly. The imitation should be delayed and varied. What to mirror? Posture. If they lean back, you lean back after a moment. If they cross their legs, you might do the same a little later. Gestures. Subtly reflect their hand gestures or nodding patterns. Speech. Match their tone, pace, and volume. If they speak slowly and softly, responding in a rapid, loud voice creates dissonance. Aligning your speech style to theirs creates a rhythm of conversation that feels natural. Vocabulary. Pick up on key words or phrases they use and incorporate them naturally into your own responses. This shows you're listening and valuing their mode of expression. Applications and ethical considerations. Mirroring is exceptionally useful in scenarios where building quick rapport is essential. Negotiations, therapy, sales, management, and even dating. A negotiator who mirrors the posture and speech of their counterpart can create a more collaborative atmosphere. A doctor who mirrors a patient's concerned tone can build greater trust. However, the ethical line is clear. Mirroring must be rooted in a genuine intention to connect and understand, not to deceive or manipulate. It is a tool for building a bridge, not for laying a trap. When used with integrity, it is a profound demonstration of empathy, a nonverbal way of saying, "I am with you. I am trying to see the world from your perspective." 4. The Ben Franklin effect, the favor that bonds. The Ben Franklin effect is a counterintuitive psychological phenomenon where a person who's performed a favor for someone is more likely to do another favor for that same person than if they had received a favor from them. Named after the American statesman who famously disarmed a political rival by borrowing a rare book from him, this principle challenges the straightforward notion of reciprocity. The cognitive dissonance explanation. The most compelling theory for why this works lies in cognitive dissonance. Our brains strive for consistency between our actions and our beliefs. If I do a favor for you, especially if I don't already like you, a dissonance is created. Why would I help someone I dislike? To resolve this mental discomfort, my brain rationalizes, I must like this person after all. The action of helping shapes the attitude of liking. Strategic implementation. Start small and reasonable. The initial request must be low cost, low risk, and difficult to refuse without seeming uncharitable. Asking for a small piece of advice, to pass a document, or for a minor clarification are good examples. The key is to request something that requires a modest investment of time or effort, but no significant sacrifice. Frame it as an acknowledgement of their competence, phrasing the request in a way that acknowledges the other person's expertise or unique position makes it more flattering and less burdensome. For example, you seem to be the most organized person here. Could you quickly show me how this filing system works? Express sincere gratitude. After the favor is performed, the gratitude must be genuine and proportional. This closes the loop positively and reinforces the other person's positive self-perception for having helped. Beyond manipulation, building investment. This technique is not about exploiting others. At its heart, it's about understanding a fundamental aspect of human psychology. We value what we invest in. By asking for a small favor, you are giving the other person an opportunity to invest in the relationship. This small investment makes them more likely to view the relationship as valuable and worth maintaining and strengthening. It transforms them from a passive observer into an active participant in your shared social dynamic.
5. The Law of Reciprocity, the social engine of give and take. The law of reciprocity is one of the most universal and powerful norms across all human societies. It is the unwritten rule that we feel obligated to repay, in kind, what another person has provided to us. This principle is the glue that holds social bonds together, facilitating cooperation and trust beyond immediate family units. It creates a web of mutual obligation that allows societies to function. The power of obligation. This sense of obligation can be incredibly strong. When someone gives us a gift, an invitation, or a piece of valuable assistance, we feel a psychological weight until we can balance the scales. This is why charities include small gifts in their donation mailings and businesses offer free samples. The recipient feels a subtle pull to reciprocate, often in a way that is of greater value than the initial gift. Ethical application. Initiating the cycle of generosity. The key to using reciprocity ethically is to be the initiator. Offer value first without any immediate expectation of return. In business, share valuable industry insights, make a helpful introduction, or provide a small service pro bono. In leadership, offer your time, mentorship, and support to your team members before demanding results. In personal relationships, be the first to extend help, offer emotional support, or give a thoughtful gift. The gesture must be perceived as genuine and not as a transparent trade. The goal is to create a culture of generosity, not a series of transactions. When you give freely, you establish yourself as a generous and valuable person, and people are naturally drawn to and want to support such individuals. The dangers of manipulation. The dark side of reciprocity is when it is used to create unfair obligations. High-pressure sales tactics that give a free gift and then demand a purchase, or relationships that are purely transactional, abuse this principle. This leads to resentment and the destruction of trust. The true power of reciprocity is realized in the long term, where consistent, genuine giving builds a reservoir of goodwill that benefits all parties involved over time. 6. Scarcity, the principle of perceived value. We instinctively assign more value to things that are rare, limited, or difficult to obtain. This principle is rooted in evolutionary psychology. Resources that were scarce in our ancestral environment, like food and safe shelter, demanded our immediate attention and action. In the modern world, this same wiring is triggered by limited-time offers, exclusive memberships, and one-of-a-kind opportunities. Psychological drivers, fear of missing out, FOMO, and reactance. Scarcity works primarily through two mechanisms. The first is the fear of missing out, the anxiety that others might have a rewarding experience from which we are absent. The second is psychological reactance, when we perceive that our freedom of choice is being threatened, such as this offer is going away, we react by wanting the threatened option even more. Creating authentic scarcity. To use scarcity effectively and ethically, it must be real and communicated transparently. Limited quantity, only 5 items left in stock.
Limited time. This special price ends at midnight. Exclusive access. This content is available only to our premium members. Unique features. Highlight what makes your offering truly different and unavailable elsewhere. The focus should always be on the unique benefits and value the person will gain, with scarcity serving as the reason to act now to secure those benefits. The message should be, this valuable opportunity is ending soon, not just, this is ending soon. The pitfalls of false scarcity. Creating artificial or fake scarcity, as in a perpetual going-out-of-business sale, is a short-sighted strategy that will eventually be discovered, destroying your credibility and trust. The audience is savvy and can sense manipulation. When scarcity is used as a blunt instrument, it breeds cynicism. When it is used to honestly signal a unique and valuable opportunity, it helps people make timely decisions that benefit them. 7. Validating emotions, the cornerstone of emotional connection. Emotional validation is the process of acknowledging, understanding, and accepting another person's emotional experience. It is not the same as agreeing with them. You can validate someone's feeling of anger without agreeing that their outburst was justified. Validation communicates, your feelings make sense from your perspective, and I accept that you are feeling them. Why it's so powerful, the need to be felt. When people are upset, their primary need is often not to have their problem solved immediately, but to have their feelings heard and understood. Invalidating responses, don't feel that way, you're overreacting, it's not a big deal. Shut down communication and make the person feel isolated and misunderstood. Validation, in contrast, makes them feel safe, seen, and connected. It de-escalates intense emotions, allowing the logical parts of the brain to come back online for problem solving. How to practice emotional validation. Active listening. Give your full attention. Put away distractions, make eye contact, and listen to understand, not just to reply. Reflect and label. Reflect back the emotion you perceive. It sounds like you're feeling really frustrated because your hard work wasn't acknowledged, or I can see that you're worried about this deadline. Normalize the emotion. Anyone in your situation would feel overwhelmed. This reduces feelings of shame or isolation. Withhold judgment and advice. The initial goal is not to fix, but to understand. Avoid phrases like, you should, or why didn't you, until the person feels fully heard. The impact on relationships. In personal relationships, validation is the bedrock of intimacy. It allows partners and family members to be vulnerable with each other. In the workplace, a manager who validates an employee's stress about a heavy workload before discussing solutions will have a much more motivated and loyal team member. Validation builds profound trust because it demonstrates that you care about the person's inner world, not just their outward actions. 8. Curiosity, the intellectual hook. Curiosity is an innate human drive, a cognitive itch that demands to be scratched. When our curiosity is piqued, our brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and pleasure. This makes the pursuit of information itself a satisfying activity. Leveraging curiosity is about creating an information gap, a space between what we know and what we want to know that people feel compelled to close. Creating the hook. There are several effective ways to trigger curiosity. The open loop. Start a story or present a fascinating fact, but delay the resolution. What I discovered next completely changed my view on the project. But first, we need to understand the baseline data. Provocative questions. What if everything you knew about time management was wrong? Mystery and secrecy. hint at valuable information that is not yet available to everyone. I've been using a little-known strategy that has doubled my productivity, and I'm going to share it with you next week. Applications in learning and engagement. In education, launching a lesson with a puzzling phenomenon like, "Why does the sky look blue, but space is black?" makes students active seekers of knowledge. In marketing, email subject lines like, "The one mistake 90% of beginners make," are designed to trigger curiosity and drive open rates. In leadership, framing a new initiative as an exciting mystery to be solved can generate far more buy-in than presenting it as a dry set of objectives. Satisfying the curiosity. The crucial final step is to deliver on the promise. If you awaken curiosity but provide a disappointing, irrelevant, or incomplete answer, you will create frustration and betrayal. The resolution must be worthwhile, providing genuine insight, value, or a satisfying conclusion to the story. When done correctly, curiosity doesn't just capture attention, it makes the learning process enjoyable and memorable.
9. The halo effect. The psychology of first impressions. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person, he is friendly and well-dressed, influences our evaluations of their specific traits. He must also be intelligent and competent. It's a mental shortcut, a heuristic, that allows us to make quick judgments, but it can lead to significant errors by causing us to ignore discrepant information. How it manifests. A classic example is the attractiveness halo. Physically attractive people are often automatically perceived as more intelligent, trustworthy, and capable than less attractive people, even in the absence of evidence. Similarly, a speaker with a confident and charismatic delivery may be judged as having more substantive expertise than a less polished speaker, regardless of the actual content. Using the halo effect consciously. While we should be aware of this bias when judging others, we can also manage the impressions we create. Dress for the role. Presenting yourself in a polished and professional manner can create a positive initial halo. Demonstrate mastery in one area. Excel visibly in a specific relevant skill. This competence can create a halo that casts a positive light on your other abilities. Cultivate a positive attitude. Being known as a positive, enthusiastic person can create a halo that makes others more receptive to your ideas and more forgiving of your minor mistakes. Guarding against its pitfalls. The most important application of understanding the halo effect is to guard against its distorting influence in our own judgments. We must consciously remind ourselves to evaluate people based on direct evidence of their specific skills and character rather than being swayed by a single positive or negative trait. In hiring, this means relying on structured interviews and skill assessments. In leadership, it means giving all team members a fair chance to prove themselves beyond our initial impressions. 10. The art of active listening, beyond hearing. Active listening is the conscious effort to not only hear the words another person is saying, but, more importantly, to understand the complete message being sent. It is a dedicated activity that requires full engagement, as opposed to the passive hearing we do while waiting for our turn to speak. The components of active listening. Attending behaviors. This is the physical foundation. Facing the speaker, maintaining an open posture, making comfortable eye contact, and nodding to show you are following. Paraphrasing, restating the speaker's message in your own words to check for understanding. So if I'm understanding you correctly, your main concern is the timeline, not the budget. Reflecting feelings, identifying and acknowledging the emotions behind the words. You seem really passionate about this idea. Asking open-ended questions. using questions that cannot be answered with a simple yes or no to encourage elaboration and deeper exploration. What are your thoughts on how we could move forward? Or, can you tell me more about that challenge? Withholding judgment and advice. This is often the hardest part. The active listener's primary role is to create a container for the speaker's thoughts and feelings, not to empty that container with their own solutions. The transformative impact. When someone feels truly listened to, it is a gift. It validates their existence and their perspective. In conflicts, active listening can de-escalate tension by ensuring all parties feel heard, which is often the first step towards a resolution. In teams, it fosters psychological safety, allowing members to share ideas and concerns without fear. For leaders, active listening is the single most effective way to gather unfiltered information and build genuine rapport with your team. The challenge and the reward. Active listening is mentally taxing. It requires us to quiet our own internal monologue, our rehearsed responses, our judgments, our own stories, and fully focus on another human being. However, the reward is a quality of connection and understanding that is impossible to achieve through any other means. It's the ultimate expression of respect in a conversation.
11. The Law of Contrast. How context shapes perception. Our perception is not absolute, it is relative. We evaluate things not in isolation, but in comparison to what is around them. The law of contrast states that when two items are presented one after the other, our perception of the second is influenced by the first. Classic examples. If you lift a heavy box and then a lighter one, the lighter one will feel much lighter than if you had lifted it alone. 11. The law of contrast, how context shapes perception. Our perception is not absolute, it is relative. We evaluate things not in isolation, but in comparison to what is around them. The law of contrast states that when two items are presented one after the other, our perception of the second is influenced by the first. Classic examples. If you lift a heavy box and then a lighter one, the lighter one will feel much lighter than if you had lifted it alone. If you look at a dark color and then a medium one, the medium color will appear brighter. In retail, a high-priced item is often placed next to a very expensive one to make the high-priced item seem more reasonable, the decoy effect. Strategic application in communication and negotiation. In negotiation, the classic tactic is to anchor high. By starting with an ambitious initial offer, you set a reference point that makes your subsequent, more reasonable target seem like a concession and a good deal. In persuasion, present a less attractive option before the one you want to promote. A charity might first ask for a large, monthly donation you're likely to refuse, and then present a one-time, smaller donation which now seems much more palatable in contrast. In presenting ideas, if you have a bold, innovative proposal, you might first briefly outline a traditional, less effective approach. Your new idea will then appear more innovative and valuable by contrast. Ethical use and awareness. The law of contrast is a powerful framing tool. Used ethically, it helps people see the relative value of an offer more clearly. Used unethically, it can be manipulative, such as by making an overpriced item seem cheap next to an outrageously priced one. The key is to ensure that the value you are offering is genuine and fair in an absolute sense, and that you are using contrast to illuminate that value and not to create an illusion of it. 12. The power of touch, the most primitive connection. Touch is the first sense to develop in the womb and is fundamental to human development and communication. A subtle, appropriate touch can convey nuances of emotion, support, empathy, congratulations, solidarity, that words often fail to capture. The science of touch.
Positive, consensual touch triggers the release of oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone or love hormone. Oxytocin promotes feelings of trust, empathy, and connection, while reducing cortisol, the stress hormone. This is why a reassuring hand on the shoulder can calm an anxious person, or a firm handshake can set a positive tone for a meeting. Appropriate and contextual application. The rules for touch are complex and must be navigated with extreme care. Professional context. The handshake is the most universally accepted form of professional touch. A firm, confident handshake conveys assurance. In some cultures, a touch on the arm during a conversation can emphasize a point and build rapport, but it must be brief and neutral. Personal context. Among friends and family, hugs, pats on the back, and other forms of touch are powerful reinforcers of bonds. Cultural sensitivity is paramount. The acceptability and meaning of touch vary dramatically across cultures. What is a friendly gesture in one culture might be a serious breach of etiquette in another. Always observe local customs and err on the side of caution. Consent and boundaries. The most important rule is to be hyper-aware of the other person's comfort level. Watch for nonverbal cues of withdrawal, pulling away, crossing arms, stiffening. If in doubt, do not touch. The impact of its absence. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the human need for touch, with many people suffering from skin hunger or touch starvation. The responsible and respectful use of touch, when the context allows, can therefore be a powerful antidote to isolation and a tool for rebuilding social connection. It reminds us of our shared physical humanity.
13. The principle of authority, the guidance of expertise. From a young age, we are socialized to respect authority figures, parents, teachers, doctors, as sources of reliable knowledge and guidance. This tendency persists into adulthood, where we look to experts, professionals, and leaders to help us navigate a complex world. The principle of authority suggests that we are more likely to be persuaded by someone we perceive as a legitimate authority. Establishing legitimate authority. Authority is not just about a title, it's about demonstrated credibility. Credentials and experience, displaying relevant degrees, certifications, or a track record of success. Demonstrated knowledge, speaking with confidence and depth about a subject and being able to answer challenging questions. Association, being introduced by or associated with other respected authorities. Appearance and demeanor. Dressing professionally and carrying oneself with confidence can contribute to the perception of authority. The balancing act, authority versus approachability. The most effective authorities are those who can balance their expertise with humility and empathy. A doctor who speaks with medical authority, but also sits down, makes eye contact, and listens to a patient's concerns, is far more trusted than one who remains distant and imperious. In leadership, this is known as being authoritative, confident, visionary, rather than authoritarian, dictatorial, closed off. The dark side and critical thinking. The infamous Milgram experiments tragically demonstrated the potential for blind obedience to authority. Therefore, while it is beneficial to establish your own authority ethically, it is equally crucial to maintain a healthy skepticism towards the authority of others. Encourage questions, provide evidence for your claims, and foster an environment where critical thinking is valued over blind deference. True authority earns respect through transparency and competence, not through intimidation. 14. Consistency,
The alignment of action and identity. Humans have a deep-seated desire to be seen as consistent, reliable, and stable in their beliefs and actions. Cognitive dissonance theory tells us that we experience psychological discomfort when our actions conflict with our self-image, and we will often change our attitudes or future behaviors to resolve this discomfort. The principle of consistency leverages this desire to appear consistent. The foot in the door technique. This is a classic application of the consistency principle. It is easier to get a person to agree to a large request if they have already agreed to a small, related one. Once someone identifies as the kind of person who supports this cause, by signing a petition, for example, they are much more likely to agree to a larger request later, to remain consistent with that self-image. Strategic applications. In commitment. Get a small, initial, public, voluntary, and active commitment. Having someone write down a goal, verbally state an intention, or take a small public action makes them far more likely to follow through with larger actions that align with that commitment. In habit formation, this principle is the engine of good habits. The first small workout reinforces your identity as a healthy person, making the next one easier. In sales and marketing, a free trial is a powerful tool because using the product is an active commitment. After investing time to set it up and use it, the user starts to see themselves as a user of this product, making the decision to purchase a consistent next step. The ethical imperative. This principle must be used to help people act in ways that are consistent with their own values and goals, not to trap them in a sequence of actions they later regret. The initial commitment must be given freely. Used ethically, it's a powerful tool for helping people follow through on their own positive intentions and build habits that serve them.
15. Social proof. The wisdom and madness of the crowd. When we are uncertain, we look to the actions of others to guide our own behavior. This social proof is a mental shortcut that helps us decide what is correct or desirable in a given situation. It's the logic behind bestseller lists, trending topics, and user reviews. Why we rely on it. In ambiguous or novel situations, following the crowd is often an adaptive and safe strategy. If everyone is running from something, it's prudent to run first and ask questions later. In the modern marketplace, with infinite choices, we use the collective opinion of others as a filter for quality. Harnessing social proof effectively. Testimonials and case studies. Specific, relatable stories from satisfied customers or clients are far more powerful than generic claims. User numbers and popularity. Join over 2 million users or the #1 best-selling. Expert endorsements. Approval from a recognized authority in the field. Similarity. We are most influenced by people who are similar to us. People in your neighborhood are switching to people are switching is more effective. The dangers and limitations. Social proof can lead to groupthink and irrational herd behavior, such as speculative economic bubbles. It can also be used unethically by fabricating reviews or followers. The key to ethical use is authenticity. The proof must be real, and it should be used to highlight genuinely valuable offerings, not to trick people into following the crowd towards a poor choice. 16. Emotional contrast. The journey from low to high. Stories and experiences are more engaging, memorable, and persuasive when they take us on an emotional journey. Emotional contrast is the technique of moving an audience from a state of tension, anxiety, or need to a state of relief, satisfaction, or resolution. This arc
is the fundamental structure of all compelling narratives. The psychological payoff. The resolution of tension is psychologically rewarding. When a problem is established and then solved, the feeling of relief and satisfaction is amplified by the preceding discomfort. This makes the solution seem more valuable and the message more sticky. It's the difference between simply stating a fact and telling a story that illustrates why that fact matters. Applications. Storytelling in marketing. A commercial shows a person struggling with a problem, stain removal, financial planning, followed by the introduction of a product or service that provides a seamless solution, resulting in a visible emotional release, a smile, a relaxed posture. Leadership and change management. A leader can frame a new strategy by first honestly acknowledging the challenges and pains of the current situation, creating a shared sense of need, before unveiling the new vision as the path to resolution and success. Education. Presenting a common misconception or a puzzling problem before revealing the correct scientific explanation creates a eureka moment that solidifies learning. The need for authenticity. The emotional journey must be believable. The problem must resonate as a genuine pain point, and the solution must be presented as a realistic and effective path forward. Exaggerated drama or a solution that doesn't live up to the buildup will result in cynicism. When done authentically, emotional contrast doesn't just convey information, it creates an experience that fosters a deep emotional connection to the message. 17. Uniqueness, the desire to be singular. While social proof leverages our desire to belong, the principle of uniqueness taps into our equally powerful need to feel individual, special, and distinct. We want to be part of a group, but we also want to be recognized for our unique contributions and tastes. The snob effect and personalization. Sometimes the value of a product or an opportunity is tied to its exclusivity, the fact that not everyone has it. This is the snob effect. A more common and powerful application is personalization. When an offer, message, or experience is tailored to our specific needs, preferences, or history, it makes us feel seen as an individual. How to make people feel unique. Personalized communication. Using a person's name is the first step, but going further to reference past conversations, specific interests, or their unique role demonstrates that you are paying attention. Highlighting unique contributions. In a team setting, publicly acknowledging a member's specific skill or unique perspective that helps solve a problem validates their individual value. Offering exclusive access. Providing early access, insider information, or a special offer to a select group makes members of that group feel privileged and valued. Balancing uniqueness and belonging. The art is in making people feel like unique and indispensable parts of a valued whole. A great team leader makes each member feel that their specific role is critical to the team's success, thus satisfying both the need for belonging to the team and the need for uniqueness, their specific contribution. When people feel that their individuality is appreciated, their engagement and loyalty increase dramatically. 18. Anticipation. The pleasure of waiting. Anticipation is the feeling of excitement or nervousness about something that is going to happen. Neurological studies have shown that the brain often derives as much, if not more, pleasure from the anticipation of a reward as from the reward itself. The dopamine system is activated in expectation of a positive event, making the wait itself a rewarding experience. Building anticipation. Teasers and previews, releasing small bits of information, cryptic images, or short trailers to whet the audience's appetite. Countdowns, creating a tangible sense of an approaching deadline or event. Storytelling arcs in serialized content, ending an episode or a chapter on a cliffhanger forces the audience to anticipate the resolution. The coming soon announcement, simply announcing that something valuable is in the works, can capture attention and create a sense of excited expectation. The business of anticipation. This principle is the engine behind effective product launch campaigns, movie marketing, and even the structure of television series. It's what makes waiting in line for a new smartphone or the next episode of a favorite show a communal, exciting experience. It transforms a passive audience into an active, engaged community waiting for a shared event. The critical finale, delivery. The entire structure of anticipation rests on a simple rule. You must deliver. The final product, the revealed information, the series finale must be worth the wait. A spectacular letdown after a long buildup doesn't just cause disappointment for that single event. It damages trust and makes people less likely to anticipate your next offering. The payoff must be commensurate with the promise. When executed perfectly, anticipation builds a powerful, emotional relationship between the creator and the audience, turning customers into fans and messages into events. Conclusion: the ethical art of connection. Exploring these 18 psychological principles reveals a coherent picture. Human behavior, for all its complexity, is often guided by deep-seated, predictable patterns. We are social creatures driven by a need for belonging and significance. We rely on mental shortcuts to navigate a complex world, and we are profoundly influenced by our emotional states and social context. Mastering the art of persuasion, therefore, is not about finding clever ways to trick people. It is about developing a sophisticated understanding of these human dynamics and applying them with empathy, integrity, and a genuine desire to create win-win outcomes. These are not levers to be pulled for unilateral gain, but rather a language of connection to be spoken fluently. The true master of influence is not the charismatic manipulator, but the empathetic listener, the trusted advisor, the leader who inspires, and the friend who understands. They use these principles not as a separate toolkit, but as an integrated part of their character, to communicate more clearly, to build trust more deeply, and to collaborate more effectively. As you move forward, let this understanding guide you. Use the power of the name to affirm others. Use active listening to truly understand. Use the principles of reciprocity and consistency to build reliable and generous relationships. Approach every interaction not as a battle to be won, but as a bridge to be built. In doing so, you will find that the greatest power of influence lies not in controlling others, but in empowering connections, fostering understanding, and creating a positive ripple effect in the world around you. If this helped, subscribe for more psychology-backed frameworks, drop a comment with one principle you'll use today, and share this with a friend who needs stronger boundaries. See you next.